to the entertainment Talking Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video, and the first thing I want to do is apologize. I just made a video about an hour ago after I read what I read on Giants Wire. It was reported, it seemed like a very credible source, that it looked as if Nate Solder was planning to play this year for the New York Giants. And sometimes, I guess people get things wrong. I was only reporting what I read. It is official now, and it was a question mark, right? That's why I talked about it yesterday, whether or not Nate Solder would play this year for the New York Giants. And it was a very logical explanation why he would decide not to if he wasn't going to. He had a very sick child, which is why a lot of people thought he wouldn't play last year. And obviously, with the COVID going around, you could completely understand why Nate Solder may elect not to play this year. The only reason that he may play this year, at least in my opinion, was the fact that he was due $20 million. And not even thinking about football here, I'm going to give Nate Solder a ton of credit. I think he's being a responsible father. He's already made more than enough money in the NFL to turn down $20 million, and we're going to get into exactly what I believe he gets from the research I did. He turned down a ton of money, and I'm pretty sure the New York Giants are going to have a ton of money freed up on their salary cap. He was due $19.5 million, and for the Giants, that's good news, because for the people that point to the fact that his child had a lot to do with why he played poorly last year, which certainly could have been a factor. You don't think that it would have been a factor this year? You know how nervous he would have been playing every week with this virus going around, knowing that he could, infect his very sick child who's only 4 years old? So I think he would have been bad again this year if you thought that that was the primary reason. So I think it's good for the Giants, and I think it's very good for Nate Solder that he gets to move on. And now, that does not mean that Nate Solder has retired. We'll have to wait and see if a year up from football he decides to retire next year. If he retires, it will save the Giants an additional $6 million on next year's cap, as we all assume that the Giants will probably cut him rather than pay him $20 million to save 14. If he retires, the Giants would save 20. But that is, of course, entirely up to Nate Solder. $6 million is a lot of money to force the New York Giants to cut him, and I wouldn't blame him at all for coming back for that kind of money. But for this year, the Giants suddenly have a lot more cap space freed up. And I'll probably have a video out on this tomorrow talking about some of the players that maybe the New York Giants could potentially look to target, not just on the offensive line, but other places. For the Giants, this is what I have said is kind of their deepest position on the roster. So they could kind of absorb the loss from Nate Solder. I think it also ends the question as to where Andrew Thomas is going to be playing this year for the Giants. Expect him to start on the left side. But on the right side, they have guys that could come in and do the job. Cam Fleming's been around the NFL, former fourth-round pick by the New England Patriots. He's a swing tackle. If he doesn't work out, you got Nick Gates, and if he doesn't work out, you got Matt Barrett. So the Giants certainly have some depth at that position, and it's not like Nate Solder was a guy that we could have depended that much on to begin with. So I don't think this is a huge step back. Yes, he's a leader, and he's a great guy. He won the Walter Payton, he was the recipient, rather, the representative for the New York Giants for the Walter Payton Award last year. Very charitable guy, seems like a great guy, but for the Giants last year, he wasn't a good football player. And at the end of the day, do I think we're going to be much worse of a team with him leaving? No. As a matter of fact, you could argue we're going to be much better if the Giants could use that money on an impact player. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. I wasn't able to figure out if it has any bearing on the salary cap if a player opts out, but I'm pretty sure the New York Giants will have some money freed up to go out there and possibly add an impact player to that defense, or maybe add a center. We'll have to wait and see what the New York Giants decide to do with the money that is allocated to them from this move. But let's jump into the story. The first thing I wanted to show you guys, in case you missed the last video, was what I read, and it sounded like he was coming back. Nate Solder has indicated to the Giants he will arrive this week for COVID-19 testing, beginning the process of acclimating to the most unusual training camp of his 10-year career. Solder, 32, surely had a difficult decision to make. His son Hudson, at 3 months old, was diagnosed blah, 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 and then it goes on to say it. So it was of the belief in that article that Nate Solder was coming back. He was coming in for COVID testing, and maybe it was a last-second decision for him to decide to opt out, which is what he released on Twitter in this statement. Statement from the Solder family. My family and I have been praying, wrestling, and listening to God about our current circumstances and whether it is best that I play football this season. Our primary goal is to pursue God and listen to the Holy Spirit in everything we do. As hard as that can be, as daunting as what He asks us to do can seem, we have come to believe, trust, and wait on the Lord. That is why we have chosen to pause for this season. Our family has health concerns, most notably our son's ongoing battle with cancer, as well as my own bout with cancer. We also welcomed a new addition to our family this spring, a baby boy. With fear and trembling, we struggle to keep our priorities in order. And for us, our children, health, and the health of our neighbors comes before football. We fully recognize that being able to make a decision like this is a privilege. I will deeply miss my teammates, coaches, and everyone in the Giants organization. I want to thank them, all of my friends and fans who continue to support me and my family through the highs and lows. As scary and bleak as it sometimes can be, we know that the God of the universe has all things under his control, and his plans are and will always be for our good. Love, Nate, Lexi, Hudson, Charlie, and Emerson. So, a very nice comment there by Nate Solder, and he's definitely showing that, he's reaching out, he's doing the right thing. He's saying that he was thankful for his time with the New York Giants, and again, he's not gone from the New York Giants. He could be back next year, but I think it's completely understandable as to why he opted out. As far as what he will get for opting out, from what I read, report NFL players who opt out are set to receive a $300,000 check. So he turned down $19.5 million for a $300,000 check, and you know what? That's a guy who's got his priorities straight. And there's not a lot of players that are going to turn down $20 million, but your kids come first, so I give Nate Solder a lot of credit for that. As far as who we could sign, I have to wait and see all the ramifications with the salary cap, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get that money back. And if we do, the Giants will be able to go out and spend it on some good pieces, whether it's Jadeveon Clowney, whoever it may be. The Giants suddenly will have more cap space than they had, as the player that was eating up the most is off the roster. We'll have to wait and see what the New York Giants decide to do with this sudden cap space. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.